Hi, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about Zoom and why it's so popular and how to use it for tutoring. So Zoom has become a program used basically, it's kind of the program everyone's using for most of their video conferencing these days. Signing up for Zoom is super easy. When you go to the Zoom homepage here, you'll see the sign up, it's free button right here. So when you sign up, it's going to ask you for your birthday, March 3rd, and let's just put something so that it gets us to the next screen. It asks you for your email address, and once you do give your email address, well, let's just try to give something. Let's, one of my favorite foods is tacos at gmail.com. Okay, so it'll send an email to tacos@gmail.com. I'm sure that person's already getting a ton of email anyways. And when you do receive that activation code and you sign up, this is what your homepage is going to look like. I'll just sign in with mine. Oh, I need to sign in with Google. So people like Zoom because I mean at this point it's ubiquitous. Everyone's using it, and the integrations as well as the ease of use. The sign up process is pretty easy. This is what your main page is going to look like. It's going to have all of your listed meetings here, and to schedule a meeting, you just click this button right here and it'll take you to this menu. There's not really much to mess around with. Topic refers to the meeting for your tutoring sessions. I recommend this nomenclature: name, subject. So let's do Timmy language arts. You put a date on it. Let's say I'm meeting with Timmy every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Sure, and our meetings go 1 hour. It is worth noting that Zoom, and this is pretty familiar to anyone who's used Zoom before, it has a limit of 40 minutes on meetings with more than 3 people. With tutoring, sometimes there is an error where people will accidentally join the meeting on the same device 2 times. That will trigger this 40-minute countdown. That's really the biggest error, biggest difficulty you're ever going to find. And if that happens, all you got to do is navigate back to this menu and schedule another meeting. It's a quick workaround for an error should that happen, but typically you'll have no such issue. So continuing on, unless you're having big meetings with multiple people, like a class kind of thing, you're not going to need to upgrade from the free account, which is awesome. A time zone, I typically set this to wherever my student is rather than myself, so that when they work with the system, everything lines up for them, because you don't want to confuse the student. You as the tutor can keep that together. Recurring meeting, really useful feature here. If you set it to weekly, every week, pick the day that it recurs on and click an end date. Typically, I'll pick something 2022, February 2023. I don't know how far in the future I can go. I think it's like 3 months with Zoom. No, it's a little longer. So I'll create enough sessions such that it won't expire. Now the thing is, once a Zoom calendar link expires, it actually still works. In my experience, the only reason that you need to keep your Zoom calendar basically registering all your sessions is in the case that you have overlapping sessions. Well, I guess that wouldn't even really be a problem because for student circle, when I've done it in the past, I'll have like one tutor, let's say a tutor's tutoring 7 to 8 p.m., they're on the schedule, and then someone else moves their session from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., and they work it out with the student. And then they try to use their Zoom link, but both of them are trying to log into Zoom at the same time, and only one person can be in a video conference at a time with Zoom. So that creates a problem. But typically you won't run into that issue, so let's keep moving on. Template, you don't have to worry about that unless you work with a lot of students and you want these options to be preset, which likely you won't for tutoring. When it comes to options and video here, this is video refers to whether video is on or off when the session is to begin. It doesn't really matter, but I guess you'd prefer that it be on automatically, particularly for your participant. Some students just don't like to turn on their video, and what I find is that you need to establish a precedent up front because both sides get comfortable with whatever the norm is. So just remove the option of starting the session with your video off. If they want to turn it off, that's a little different. And there is just a button on, off, on, off. But I think that it'll just it's a good idea to set this to on. Regarding options, allow participants to join anytime. I find this to be a useful option. Basically, what this means is if someone wants to join the meeting without you logging in and having started it, they can do that, which is ideal for, let's say you guys are starting at 7, they log in 6:58. This will let them in automatically rather than block them until you log in at 6:59 p.m. to start the session. And also, if you have multiple accounts, it lets you log in as long as you have the password. So I think this is a good thing to tick. Mute participants upon entry. That's for like webinars. Don't need it. Record the meeting on a local computer. You probably won't. I don't. You shouldn't do that. Approve or block entry from specific regions, countries. Don't think you need to do that. Now, when you create a session, it's going to. Did I put a name on this? Yeah, Timmy Language Arts. So let's go to Timmy Language Arts now. Here is the confirmation page. You're able to integrate with Google Calendars and Outlook. So this will send a access link, and basically your calendar will populate with all of these sessions, which is really useful if you use these systems to organize yourself. This is the key right here, the invitation. The invitation will contain all of your scheduled sessions. I don't recommend copy pasting that, but go down to here and find the Zoom link meeting and the password, the meeting ID and the password. Your student will need the password in order to access the Zoom. This is a security measure. Zoom has had issues with people, basically bots, accessing, joining every public meeting they can. They won't be able to guess your password. So make sure you do have a password, particularly if you're working with a student, because anyone who's joining your meeting is doing so for nefarious purposes, and you don't want that interrupting your session. So copy and paste this. This is something you want to send to the student, but also to me. The reason that you want to send it to me is because our scheduling system, Tutor Panel, sends out a reminder 48 hours before all scheduled sessions, and it'll have a description where I will always include the Zoom link because it's really convenient for the client to be able to access that reminder. Where's the Zoom link? Oh yeah, it's in the reminder every time, rather than you have to reinvent the wheel and possibly deal with them losing the Zoom link every couple of weeks. I mean, I do that personally, so I wouldn't put it past the student struggling with that. Although the kids tend to have things pretty well together, more so, less so the older we get. Let me see anything else I wanted to mention here. Sending the link, sending me the link. Let's create a session now. Let's see what it looks like. So we're going to join this little Timmy language session. Zoom has a software that you can download onto your computer, which companies always want you to download their software. It's not necessary. You can open in the browser. Don't have the Zoom client installed, download now. There should be a browser somewhere. Launch meeting. Ah, yes, you have to click launch meeting and then ignore this menu, and then having issues with Zoom client, join from your browser. So you don't need the software, but it's probably easier if you just get the software. I have the software. So I'm going to open it up in the software. This is the preferred way of doing things. So let's, hold on, move this over here. All right, so now here we are. This is my computer camera, and you are now in the, this is what Zoom looks like. So you have some options down here. Join audio, which typically this will be auto-joined. Stop video, which would be stopping this video right here. Security, you won't have to access. Participants shows you everyone. Chat is a really nifty function. This lets you communicate with your students. When I have a couple students who have difficulties with Wi-Fi, and when things get really bad, we turn off the video. I'm sorry, when things get bad, we turn off the video. When they get really bad, we communicate via chat. So maybe I can hear them, but they can't hear me, or vice versa. We can revert to the chat at the lowest form if we need to communicate until the Wi-Fi comes, back up. Not everyone has great Wi-Fi. The chat is a good thing to keep in your back pocket. Record will record your session locally. Reactions, you don't need to worry about that. Another really useful function here is share screen. Share screen lets you connect with, you can show your screen. Two people can't share a screen at the same time, so you'll have to wait for, you'll have to end if your student wants to take over. And there's, so you can share your desktop. I have 3 desktops, so I can share any of those. If you have an iPad plugged in, you can share that. You can share specific windows, and then there's a whiteboard. Whiteboard will give you access to a shared drawing surface. Now this brings up An important discussion point here. Are you going to use your phone? I guess that's what a phone looks like these days. Phone or your computer? Um, the advantage of the computer is that you can access so many things, and many of us are pretty good with dancing around the computer's interface. The phone, it's not as easy to type. It's not easy to interact with your phone and Zoom at the same time. And if you exit the Zoom window, you will lose video capacity, I believe. So the advantage of the phone, however, is the touchscreen surface. The touchscreen surface you can literally draw on the screen. I'm using a mouse right now, but can I erase that? Boop. You can draw on your phone, and it makes it a lot easier to do math. An iPad is a nice medium between the two. You can so if you share screen or you whiteboard and you exit the Zoom app, which would be on your phone or tablet, then your screen share will stay alive, but your video will disappear, and that's not the worst thing in the world. So it's kind of up to you and it's okay to give the phone a shot and see how comfortable you can get with it. Personally, I use a computer, but I'm interested in shifting over to the tablet. So I just wanted to have that quick discussion. Anything else I wanted to say? Okay, we're going to shift over to something Student Circle specific here. Let me end the screen share. Actually, can I switch it to the other? Yes, I can. All right, we're going to briefly talk about IXL here. And I'm going to look over here so I can see my IXL screen. So IXL is a paid subscription tool that you have access to. I've talked about it in some other videos. Basically what it is it's a repository for practice modules that are basically, we have federal standards for what kids are supposed to learn in every grade. Every state has a different take on those standards, but there is a basic template for everyone to follow. So what they've done here is they've created practice modules for every little skill that kids are supposed to learn in every grade. So I can go into learning. We have a subscription to math and to language arts. So let's go to language arts. As a language arts instructor, I've gotten pretty comfortable with using this. Math, it's a little bit different. Hopefully, I can speak to you from a very experienced language arts level, and as a math instructor, you might be able to take some of this with you. And if you are an LA instructor, this is what you're looking for. So let's go to fifth grade. We see 198 skills at the fifth grade level. Hold on, let me switch my screen. Okay, I got an IXL screen. So fifth grade language arts, here's everything kids are supposed to be learning according to federal standards at the fifth grade level. Each one of these items is a practice module. Let's click one that we'll be able to get through pretty quickly. Let's do Greek and Latin roots is my favorite one. So we're using what are the directions? Use words as clues to the meanings of Greek and Latin roots. The word centimeter contains root cent, and what does the root cent mean? So what I do when I work with my students on this kind of stuff is well, IXL is great for working with a student and kind of teaching them. It's also really good for a homework. Right now, this is more of the teaching thing. This is not the best teach one, but what I'll do with them is the questions about cent. I'll ask them, what does meter mean? Think about when do we use meter in real life? And they might be like, I have no idea. And I'll say, okay, so we have feet. Have you ever heard of what do they use in Europe? And they'll go, oh, meters. Okay, so meters is, what are meters? And they're like, well, it's like how you measure distance. All right, great. So we have meter. We know what that means. What does cent mean? Can you think of any word with cent in it? And they'll say, I don't know, centipede. Okay, so what is distinctive about a centipede? The legs. And then we have a conversation about centipede, 100 legs. And then they go, oh, cent, 100, centimeter. So that is typically how you'll teach. That's how I love to teach off of IXL, particularly Greek and Latin roots. And then what I'll do is I'll send them a little bit about IXL. It measures how many questions are answered. It has a running timer for how long you've been working on this system. I always tell my students 15 to 20 minutes max. Oh, let me end this Zoom conversation because I'm not on Zoom. Whatever. So 15 to 20 minutes max. Some students will come in being like, oh, I hate IXL. IXL is a tool. If you use it the wrong way, it's not going to work. I say 15 to 20 minutes max because I mean, beating your head against a wall longer than 20 minutes is going to be ineffective. It's not great for learning. I'd much rather them put 20 minutes in, figure out where they're at, come back to me, I kind of tune them, and then they try to finish the task. So let's talk a little bit about that. Anything I need to talk about before? Um, okay, so we've kind of talked a little bit about how IXL works here. It also has a SMART score. The SMART score is a 0 to 100 scale. The closer to 100 they get, the 100 indicates mastery, and you win. You've completed it after you hit 100. The questions get harder the closer you get to 100, and the questions are worth fewer points the closer you get to 100. So first question is 10, second question is 9, and third question is 8, and it goes down and down and down until your last 10 questions are the hardest, and they're all worth 1. The challenge zone. So that's everything we need to talk about working with IXL. Now let's talk about the real strength of IXL, which is in the teacher view / analytics. So you can log in and see a graph of your students' performance. Actually, let's go to this graph first. So here we see they got a score of 100 in 4 minutes. And they answered 30 questions. That, as you'll learn, means they were blazing through the assignment. And you have a little graph here showing you kind of the story of what they were getting right and wrong. This student got a question wrong near 80. And remember, they get harder the higher up it gets. So they burned through the first bit of questions. They knew this. And then they got one question wrong. They got a couple right, another question wrong, and then they got them all right. Is that 2 questions wrong? They knew this. So, and in 4 minutes, usually if they can finish something in 4 minutes, so it's no problem. Let's look at a different story. This is actually a recent student I have. And this is one of the reasons I say 20 minutes max, because this is commas, and there's lots of different kinds of comma usage. So I'll teach them how to do like firstly, comma, secondly, comma, in conclusion, comma. Then we'll work on names. Dad, comma, I want to go to the mall today versus Dad went to the mall today. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good example. Dad, comma, indicates you're talking to Dad versus Dad went to the mall today. You're not talking to Dad. You're talking about Dad. So different ways of using commas. And then I'll give them something that we've not talked about in class because I want to see what they do know about this thing. And you have an hour with this student. Sometimes you need to kind of probe a little bit. Go home, 20 minutes. Let me see where you're at. Bring it back to me. Give me the results. We'll work on that together. So this student did a good job, only did 20 minutes. I like that. They answered 19 questions, which means every question took them a minute, and they got a score of 54. I mean, compare this with the student who got through in 4 minutes. This student was definitely struggling. And if you look at the story of how they were doing, it looks like they got 2 questions right, one wrong, and I don't know, I guess maybe a couple wrong. And then they got a couple right, wrong, got a bunch right, wrong, and then they kind of evened out right around the 60 point. This tells me they really didn't know the stuff. A couple things they did know, but a lot they didn't. So, take a look at this. You can press show missed questions only, and it'll show you what they got wrong. When I used to work in person, I would print this out and I'd bring it with them and we'd work on it together. Highlighters, circling, I'd give it over to them. You write what you think is the right answer. Online, it's really not too different. So insert 2 commas here. Your idea of here's the question. Your idea of a fun adventure is to be honest. Absolutely terrifying to me. So we'll look at let's see. Show missed questions only. We'll look at their answer And can we hide correct? Good. Yeah, let's hide correct. So I'll look at their answer. Your idea of a fun adventure, comma, is to be honest, comma, absolutely terrifying to me. So the problem is they put the verb within the commas, and kind of putting me on the spot for grammar knowledge here. This is, I believe, an interjection, which is like a thought that you bring in. And the verb is not a part of the thought you bring in, the thought being to be honest. And when you say this, it makes sense, but when you read it, not so much. Your idea of a fun adventure is to be honest, absolutely terrifying to me. Is not a part of that intonation that goes up. And that indicates the interjection. When we speak, we use that. Anyways, grammar lesson here. So, that's what I'll do with them, though. That's how we work on their homework together, and we go question by question until they seem to get it, and then we re-access the work they're doing. So they'll start off from he'll start from score of 54, and I'll work on a couple questions with my student, make sure that they get it, and then I'll say, okay, for homework, give it another 20 minutes, and they always get it. They come back within 100, or they usually they come back with 100. It's an awesome teaching strategy for tutoring. Highly recommend it. And I think that's all I have to say about IXL. And obviously, you have access to this product. We have a company login. If you don't know it, please message me. I'm happy to share that with you. I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. Let me see. Anything else? We already discussed iPad versus or tablet versus computer. One last thing. Setup. Things to use in your setup. As you see, I have a headset here. Headset is really good for audio quality. It's good for blocking out noise. If you're ever going to be tutoring in public, the headset is a must. If you have one of those, I guess a Bluetooth headset would work as well, or something that plugs into your computer and has a microphone as well as headphones or buds, that would work. If you're in the privacy of your home, it doesn't really matter as much. But I always tutor with headphones, and then a lot of tutors like to use, and I do not want have I don't own one, but people like to use what are called I guess drawing. They're not drawing tablets. Drawing. I don't exactly know what the word is, but essentially what they are is a freestanding item that you plug in via USB, and it functions as kind of a surface to draw on. So your computer knows that you are working with basically a draw tablet, and it comes with a pen, and you can draw on it, and your computer registers that you are drawing. So if you're a math person, and they're like $30 on the lower end, I do believe, you can use a tablet in that way. So if you have a tablet, it's not, it's kind of you might have to download an app, like you're going to have to figure out how to do it. But, well, actually with Zoom, as you saw, it does connect to iPad and iPhone via USB. So what you could do is plug in your iPhone and share screen onto your iPhone and have it on a drawing app, and then use your finger to draw on it. Or to be more precise, I really highly recommend a DigiPen, which will let you draw a little more with more precision. That's really important when you're doing mathematics in particular. Your finger works, but I mean, once you use a pen, just immediately you recognize how much more accurate it is than your finger. So the drawing tablet, whether you purchase the $30 standalone item that plugs in as a USB thing and your computer knows, hey, this is a drawing surface only and lets you draw on your screen, that's great. Or plugging in your tablet, you're going to have to figure out how to do that. That's really good too. Personally, I don't do that, but I am not a mathematics instructor. So you might find that expedient for your needs. Anything else? Headset? No. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope this answers all of your questions on how to use Zoom and how it integrates with a couple other nifty tools. Good luck in your online tutoring. Online tutoring is really the future. It was true before the pandemic, but the pandemic has opened everyone's eyes to this reality. We will never return to all in person. I mean, some people, I mean, there are people who prefer in person, but things have changed and they're never going to go back. I was reading a study that said it was asking people, how satisfied are you with online instruction? You know, who was the most satisfied between teachers, parents, tutors, and students, it was students. Students think it's the best use of their time. Students love it. And one thing I've learned in these 30 years of life is that the kids, a lot of times they get technology right. And everyone older is a little slower to the truth. So there will be in person, and some students indeed learn better. But at the same time, there's a lot of just people don't know their learning styles. They haven't been instructed. Their parents can't help them. Parents are new to it as well in how to effectively learn off of a computer. Our consciousness as students and teachers, is going to evolve forever, such that technology is going to be more integrated into our education, and the ability to I'm not going to get into this too much, but this is a really useful skill to learn, and I hope this is really useful to you. Thank you for joining me this evening. Thank you.